Good evening and welcome to another AISH On Campus live on Wednesday night. It's a pleasure to present. I'm Rabbi Gideon. Unfortunately, I have to apologize for Danielle, who's not available this evening, but we have a fantastic show lined up for you this evening. But before we get to our guest this evening, I've got a very exciting announcement. For those of you who have been following AISH On Campus on our Facebook page, for those who aren't following, click follow now. But for those who aren't following, we've just launched, and we said this on last week's show, we've just launched a very exciting project. And our project called Venture is a summer program for all of you out there whose summer programs have been cancelled, whose plans have had to change. We have been thinking, how can we maximize the time? How can we produce something that's really productive to make the most out of our summer? And we launched Venture just a week ago. And Venture is a 3-part program for the month of July, focused on a paid internship in the mornings, Jewish enrichment courses, as well as a fantastic leadership and development track in the afternoon for twice a week. And we have been absolutely inundated with excitement, with applications, to the point that actually we had to close application because obviously we need to meet the number of applicants with and suggest and provide them with a great internship, which we very quickly ran out of because so many people were interested. And we've been working literally round the clock over the past couple of days to ensure that we can provide more internships so we can accept. We have a big growing waiting list, but we are proud and excited to announce that we are reopening this evening because we've been able to secure new internships in new fields, as well as expanding some of the internships that we already had set up. Watch this video, check it out, and if you're interested, now is the time to apply to make sure that you secure a place on the Venture program. Check this out. That's our Venture program. We're very excited to reopen the places. If you've been looking at it and wondering, gosh, I'm so upset that I didn't get in there in time, we've fantastically secured more internships. So please send your applications, apply now on aish.org.uk/intern and secure your internship to make sure that you have the most productive July you can possibly imagine. We're very excited about it and really looking forward to welcoming you to the program. But now back to our program, where we are very fortunate to welcome to tonight's show a very special friend of AISH, a man that's quite literally inspired hundreds, if not thousands of people. Please welcome to tonight's show, the one and only Jodeci Joseph.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, AISH.
It is such a pleasure. The pleasure is ours. Thank you, Jodeci, for joining us. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I know I've been busy with quite a lot of stuff, but been keeping myself busy in lockdown and trying to keep productive and trying to make a difference and spending a lot of time with my family, thank God, and really utilizing this time to reflect on myself and develop. So it's been amazing. You?
Thank God, we're really good. It's like we're picking up new life skills. We're spending time with the people that we love, and it's a real opportunity to connect with things that matter. But I know that a lot of our viewers, I know some people out there will know you, Jodeci, but obviously not everyone does yet. And really, I wanted to kind of open this conversation up by asking you to share a little bit about your journey, like, you know, where you've been, where you came from, and obviously we'll get to where you're up to now. But maybe share a little bit about, you know, your earliest memories, your earliest childhood, you know, when you found out you were Jewish and what took place then and where that led you in life.
Oh, thank you for the great question. Thank you for the amazing introduction as well. I just kind of want to track back and take you a bit, back to. I'll give you a bit of history, a bit of a background to me as a person, because that kind of leads nicely onto my journey and me as a person. So my mum's from Stamford Hill, in Hackney. I don't know how many of you guys know Stamford Hill or know what it's like. She is from a Haredi family. She is one of 14. And my mum grew up in a very religious community, a really religious home. And as she was growing up, she kind of realized that, that type of Judaism wasn't necessarily for her. And she would hang out, with people who weren't Jewish in the local community, and she would meet all kinds of different people. And my dad is Nigerian. So my mum one day met my dad, who's Nigerian. He's not Jewish, but he's an amazing man. And my mum met him, and later on got married and fell in love. And as a result, she had to leave the community. She left the community, and she started us off as a family. I was just about coming into the world at this point, and she started us off in an area called Plumstead, which is southeast London, which has no Jewish kind of.
I was going to say southeast.
I don't know if you've ever heard it. Woolwich, Plumstead. It's like no Jewish. I don't know if you can imagine no Jewish kind of facilities. Nothing that would ever make me feel that I'm Jewish or any sort of recognition. And I think my mum's kind of rationale for that was that she wanted us to have choice, and she wanted us to see different types of philosophies in the world. She wanted us to explore and see what there is in the world to come to some sort of an informed decision about where we want to go in our lives. So for the first few years of my life, it was quite a rough area as well. I remember being scared. I remember going to my mum and I'm like, I don't want to walk to the shop by myself, the local store, because there were a lot of stabbing. I remember the area was quite rough. It was quite a rough area. As you can imagine, there's a lot of stabbing. It was a very tough area to be living in. But I went to this Christian school, and I grew up in a Catholic school, and it was quite funny because in the Christmas plays, they had Christmas plays every year, and they
really. How old are we talking? How old were you then?
Like 8, 9, 7. Before I knew I was Jewish, I didn't have any idea I was Jewish. My mum always. We never had pork in that. We never had pork, or my mum, whenever we went to restaurants, really? My mum made everything like don't have pork. We didn't know why. We just thought maybe she didn't like the animal or something. I don't know.
So what was the point where it became like then like you can imagine? I hate to say it's like this Harry Potter moment of like this is your reality.
So basically, what happened was that obviously I was in this play, and I was Jesus in this play, which was quite funny because he's Jewish.
Really,
anyway.
You were the starring role.
Yeah. And one day, like I was 10 years old, finishing year 5, and my mum sat me and my siblings down on the chair on the couch. I remember fondly this moment, and she said to us, guys, I've got something to tell you. And there's like a pause, and we're all sitting there, and she said, guys, you're Jewish. Really? And to be honest, it didn't really mean at the time. It's just a word. I'd never met a Jew before. I'd never learned about Judaism in my life. It was all just like theoretical and hypothetical. There was no context behind it. It didn't mean any. It was like a word. It was like being just like bananas. At least bananas, you know what the fruit is. Like it was just like a word was being thrown at me. I did not know there was this. Judaism had so much history and full of so much, so much context. I didn't know anything, and but not only that. What was the most surprising thing was she said, not only are you guys Jewish, but we're going to move you over to a Jewish community, Gants Hill. We're going to move you over. We're going to move you over to the
everything all at once, really.
Yeah, so it wasn't just like we're Jewish and move on. It was you're Jewish, and as a result, I want you to be in a Jewish education. I want you to be integrated in the Jewish community, and therefore we're going to move to an area called Gants Hill. Ilford, which at the time it's not so busy anymore, but at the time it was like Golders Green or Hendon equivalent. It was the fastest growing Jewish community at the time, and my mum told us we were leaving.
Really? Gosh. Yeah. So really it was just a question of all at once kind of moving home. That, I mean, obviously that's a massive upheaval, but I guess you've been in the kind of Essex area since then as well. I mean, that was a more, you're kind of stuck in that area. So I guess people, a big shout out for our Essex friends out there watching.
Love you guys.
But tell us, Jodeci, that obviously that was a big turning point in your life. But there have been other kind of points in your life where, you know, in a similar way, you've kind of been told, this is you, this is how we're going to define you, and take it from here. Tell us a bit about other defining moments that kind of, you know, have shaped your journey and who you've become now.
Yeah, so like the first point was moving over to the Jewish area, and when I walked into this Ilford Jewish primary school, I remember it was an Orthodox school, and I remember the whole playground turning around and staring at me and my siblings. And I literally had felt if the UFO had just dropped me and my siblings in this playground, because we were the only black Jews in the school. So that was like that was a really crazy moment, and I experienced I had a really tough time being a mixed race Jew in the community.
Sure.
And I had a really tough time, and then so I kind of acted out to justify my Judaism. I felt like I had to be bigger. I felt like I had to be some sort of confident person to justify my Judaism. So what would happen is that I'd be in school, I'd be messing around, and I wouldn't really be engaging in lessons, and because I was so focused on trying to fit in and trying to be this person that I didn't really connect. And so one time I was quite naughty from year 7 in King Solomon, when I later went a few years later, and in year 9 I get back from summer. This is another big defining moment for me. I got back from the summer holidays, and there was a teacher that said to me, where have you been all summer? Like, how was your holidays? I was like, yeah, it was good. I was with these friends, etc. And he said, were you in prison?
Gosh.
I said, what do you mean? And he kind of laughed it off. But that night I went home and I cried to myself, and I said to myself, how could it be that based on my behaviors that this person thinks that I would be in prison or end up in prison? And it kind of, I realized that I need to change. You know, I changed my attitude, and I said, I need to be better. This
is year 9.
This is year 9.
That's amazing. That's quite something. That's quite something. I want to get back to that as well, because obviously with the news at the moment, and you know, asking those kind of questions of what it's like to be a black Jew in, you know, I guess Anglo Jewry, where you're definitely a minority, and it must be a challenge. And in light of what's going on in the world at the moment, that's definitely something I want to ask and hear from your perspective on that. But let's get. I don't want to interrupt your story. You're in year 9. You've just, you know, obviously this comment to you has shaken you up. Where'd you go from there? What's the?
So I remember going back into class the next day, and I was like a reformed, changed person. Like I got in, I was good.
Wow.
My report card was good. I literally just changed my whole attitude. I started working every day, and before you knew it, within months, I went from bottom set in every subject to top sets. I was smashing out my subjects, got one of the best GCSE grades in the year. Like I was completely smashing it. So that attitude changed, but it was still driven from a point of trying to fit in and acceptance. And then this kind of led me down a really interesting route, because my third turning point was that in A levels, I received deputy head boy. So I was the first mixed race Jew to get deputy head boy of the school. However, I realized that all of these turning points was building up so much pressure, you know, and the pressure on me and the pressure I had to achieve, I had to make a difference. I had to be this new person. And before you knew it, you know, I was really struggling. I had really bad anxiety, couldn't get out of bed. It's really hard to talk about, but wasn't really eating properly. Kind of was really depressed in a way, and kind of didn't want to be in the world anymore. And I didn't know why. And this pressure was just getting too much to me. And then I would have periods of really energetic times where I'd go in and start all these projects, but then I would be hiding from my friends, and then I'd have anxiety again, and then I would be back in this slum, you know. And this was a major turning point in my life, because, you know, at 17, 18, you're meant to be your teenage years, you're meant to be experiencing the world, friendships, socials, your A levels, like you're meant to be, you know, appreciating the world, learning to drive. Like this is where you're growing. This is a time where you're meant to be experiencing life. And for me, it became a black hole ultimately. And my mum didn't know what to do. She would cry every night. Like we didn't know what to do. Like I was insanely depressed, and I didn't know what to do with myself, and I didn't know what was happening to me. And we had to go to a psychiatrist, and a psychiatrist sat me and my mum down. She sat us down, and it was really hard. And he gave me this one speech that changed my life. He said, Jodeci, based on your behaviors and the things that have happened to you in your life and the ups and downs, it seems to be that you have a condition. and this condition is called bipolar. And it kind of felt like it took me back to that moment when I was in year 6, when I was in year 5, and my mum told me I was Jewish.
Right.
You know, it took me back to that moment. Like, it's just a word. What does this mean? You know, like, but yet again, it had so much it had such a different impact on my life.
Wow.
And I remember going home and looking on net. Don't ever do this, by the way, guys. Don't. If you ever get told you have
Google.
you feel like you have to, don't use NHS. Just don't Google it on NHS, because it's going to tell you you're not going to live anymore.
Especially at the moment, any symptoms of corona, is X a symptom of corona? And you'll get 300 websites saying, yeah, it's definite. You know, I just blinked, it's blinking. But goodness. Wow. I mean, so these are like 2 massive bombshells at different stages of your life, and not just stages. They're like, you know, almost like really key points of your life, just as you're kind of coming to the end of primary school and then at the end of secondary school. It's like really defining moments. But what's amazing to me, and this is kind of one of the reasons why I think, Jodeci, you're such an incredible example, is where you went from there. You know, because so many people, that's a real hurdle. That's a real challenge. You know, you get told something, whatever condition it is that you get told, you know, you're defined by this, to then kind of turn things around and you know, become and maximize your own potential and do something incredible. You know, what have you done since then? And obviously, I know the incredible projects you're involved in, but I want you to be able to share yourself some of the incredible things that you've done since that time in your life. With our audience. And then also I want to really kind of understand, how did you do that? Like, what's the secret to all of that? So take it away, Jodeci. Tell us like what you've been up to.
I think the next after that, the next positive turning point that was kind of like a trampoline for me, like a positive trampoline that had been put under me that I could jump and trampoline into greatness, was the year after. I took a year out. I wasn't ready to go to university. I'd been diagnosed with bipolar. I'd really struggled with what I was going through. I'd lost complete confidence in my ability to do anything. My anxiety was high. I didn't know where I was going to go moving forward. I didn't see any. And then this idea of an apprenticeship came out. You know, let me do something a bit more, not too stressful, but like something I could do to keep me busy. And you get paid half time, and so I decided to do an apprenticeship in a primary school. I didn't know if I wanted to work with kids. I always wanted to be a physiotherapist. So I thought, let me try working with kids. Let me try it out. And I applied to a primary school, and I got the job as a teacher assistant in a primary school, like for year 2 as a teacher assistant. And I went into this school when I was an apprentice, and I absolutely loved every day. Like, really? The kids, I bonded with them. I built on my confidence. The kids don't judge. They just love you for who you are. They don't judge. They don't judge you. They don't judge you for who you are. Like, they just accept you for everything you are. And after every time, even when I felt depressed in the morning, I didn't want to go into work, I would say, you know what? Like, those kids, they're just going to make me happy when I go there. It's actually quite funny because it wasn't a Jewish primary school, and they had religious studies, and they asked me as the Jewish representative to teach Jewish studies, the Jewish subject, and I brought in tefillin, and all the kids were like, "Sir, is that a walkie-talkie?"
That's great.
That's great. So it was a really funny. But to carry on, by the end of the year, I got a really important call from a private number. I'm thinking, another
it's
prank.
Always important when it's a private number. Are you one of those people that can't resist answering private numbers?
Either important or like completely not important than a prank call. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's either way. It's like
car accident one.
It's like either way. And they called me up, and I get a call, and I'm sitting there, I'm chilling, and they're like, "It's the government." You know, I'm like, okay. He said I was going to go to prison, but I haven't done anything wrong. I mean,
MI6 or something.
I've been good all year, you know. And they said to me, we've got you've been nominated for Apprentice of the Year in the whole of the UK. You've been nominated by your school, by your community, for Apprentice of the Year. And I remember thinking, this must be a joke. Like, after what I'd been through, surely not. And then anyway, so they invited us to a dinner, you know, these fancy dinners. Like, I remember walking in there with my mum, like, glass chandeliers and, like, you know, gold plates and everything. And, like, I'm not a posh guy. Do you know what I mean? I'm from Essex. No offense, I love you.
Shout out to the Essex people again.
Sorry, Essex, love you guys. But I'm not a posh guy.
Not me.
It was my fault. And I'm sitting there, we're sitting at this table, and they're announcing the awards, and they said, like, the winner of the Apprentice of the Year in the UK region is Jodeci Joseph. And this on a deep level, this is a very big game changer for me, because my mum burst into tears because we'd literally been through hell together. There were points where I literally didn't want to be in this world anymore on such a deep level. It's hard to understand when you're in those zones. And just a year later, we're at an award ceremony, and I won an award for Apprentice of the Year. And my mum burst into tears and she says, Joe, don't let anything ever stop you again. You are great. You are powerful. You are absolutely amazing. And you come back stronger. You know, my name's Yehuda. You come back like a leader. You come back stronger every time. Every challenge that hits you. It's like the other day I was getting a dental. There's before Corona. Those like hygiene tests, you know, where the hygienists and they're scraping your teeth, and it's killing. Like it's my mesh is like the worst pain. They're like scraping your teeth, and it's going into it's hitting your gums, and it's scraping, and it's painful. But the reason I'm still in that chair, the reason I'm still there and waiting and sitting with it, is because I know that it's cleaning my teeth. And I had such a realization that maybe, I know it's such a weird way of looking at it, but maybe this whole episode and everything I went through was building up to realizing my greatness. And from that moment on, when I won Apprentice of the Year, I said to myself, all these challenges that I've got, I'm going to turn it into a strength. I'm going to turn it into empowering others, because I promise you, people watching, everyone here, everyone has struggles. Everyone has tough times. Everyone in this world is full of suffering. We're in the dark. We feel like we're in the dark. But when we realize we're just being like a diamond, how does a diamond become a diamond? It gets melted down, and it gets extreme heat and pressure, and it becomes a diamond. And I think in life, like what the mentality that I've had to answer your question of what's the secret, it comes down to resilience. The ability to be able to take pain and to experience setbacks and challenges and falls and knockdowns, and to see yourself as a soul, as an infinite potential with so much work, and all you're doing, all that's being done to you is helping you to grow. All these things that are happening to you is in order for you to move forward. One thing that I've gained from that experience is that I'm able to help, so like have empathy with people because of my mental health condition, because of me being a black Jew, because of all the things that people would see as deficiencies or things that would be seen as downers or something that would affect your life in a negative way. I'm trying to turn around and use in a positive way, because it's how you look at how you look at the situation.
Wow.
And then
it's worth mentioning. I've got a question here that I got to ask, because I think it's someone's posted a comment on our Facebook post. The truth is, I think you've just answered it. But Joe from who's based in Leeds said, I had a question for Jodeci. He said, has your faith been affected by the COVID-19 crisis, and has your belief system changed in any way? And it's interesting, because I think like your point that you just kind of raised is the answer to that question. But obviously, I don't want to put words in your mouth. You tell me.
I've got more to add. That. Thank you so much, Joe from Leeds, for the question. I hope to meet you one day. There was a story, a little analogy that I once heard. There was a baby who had a balloon, and the balloon went into the road. And the young toddler, tried to make his way to the balloon. And there was a car coming on this road, so the balloon was about to be run over by the car. The mother ran and saw this baby and toddler and picked up the baby before they got to the road, and the balloon popped by the car. From the baby's perspective, my mum's horrible. My balloon got busted because of you, because you picked me up. But from the mother's perspective, from the parent figure, they just saved their child. So how does this relate to me? All of these negative experiences, bipolar, being a black Jew, all of these things that have happened to me. My family was homeless at a certain point. We were literally Mamesh homeless in one room, all 6 of us in one room. This was very recent, a few years ago. All of these negative things that have happened to me, who knows why they happened, but I've chosen to accept it as Hashem, God, is just showing me a better way to live. Before I had these struggles, I was not the nicest kid in school, you know. I was like quite haughty, and I didn't really care about my family and friends. But having a mental health condition and having those struggles opened me up and led me on to do motivational speaking, to what I'm doing today. But if it wasn't for that happening, if it wasn't for all these struggles, who knows where I would have been? Maybe I would just gone to uni, just carried on. I don't know where I would have been. But the reason I'm able to help other people is because of God, you know, putting me through certain challenges to help me realize my true potential, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Wow. Gosh, I mean, it's like, first of all, just thank you. I mean, I want to just like sit and listen to you for hours and hours. And, this is, listen, it's not by chance. You're a motivational speaker. You've inspired so many people. I want to ask a little bit about your Jewish journey as well. Like, over the past few years, obviously way back when you were 11, sitting on that couch, you kind of found out, and back then it was just a word to you. Now, I met you. We were just talking before the show, maybe 5 years ago or something, and it's just interesting to hear your take on things now. Like, where's your Jewish journey taken you over the past 5 years? What have been the highlights? What's been like the kind of points that you wish someone would have told you before? Like, where are you up to now? Like, share a little bit about that. And but I do want to leave a bit of time at the end as well, because I want to hear some of your perspectives about what's going on in the world at the moment. But let's do. Let's start with that. I didn't
really to talk about motivate, but that's just something I did on the
side. We'll include that as well. We'll get time as well.
We'll get to that. So basically, it's actually quite a funny story. It involved AISH and JLE together because they both really helped me. But once, when I was doing this apprenticeship journey, I wasn't really into Judaism at all. Like I've been through a tough time. All my friends were at uni at this time. I was a bit lost, in life, and like didn't really. I had a social vibe. I had friends, but I didn't really connect to anything. I was just getting myself back onto track. And JLE and AISH had this program at the time. I think it was called J Life or Genesis. It's called Genesis at the time. And we would come every week to sessions, like business speakers or different speakers would speak. And there would also be a bit of Jewish learning. And when I used to go to them, I used to love it. Like I used to love vibing with people. I loved the different talks. They were great. But there was this rabbi called Rabbi Sands, who is now like my father.
Big shout out to Rabbi Sands. We love you, Sands.
He taught me a Jewish text called Derech Hashem, like a really in-depth text about philosophical Judaism, about where we come from. And I remember absolutely loving this session every single week, this learning that I would learn. And slowly, just over that year, I just started to actually understand what Judaism was. I didn't know what Tanakh and more. I didn't know. I never learned any of that in my life. I didn't know that Judaism had such a wide, broad of learning experience and connection. And I would literally feel myself when I'm learning. I felt fire in myself. This is my experience of my Judaism. It was passionate. It was love. It was enjoyment. I felt successful when I was doing it. I felt like I was connecting to something greater and bigger. And I felt more so, it kind of, in the deep experience that I had with my mental health condition, I kind of delved deep into myself, self-introspection, and I realized I had a calling. And Judaism at that time was helped me do that. And then what happened was I went on a Genesis Israel trip at the end of the year.
I remember that.
Yeah, with you. And I remember every morning, so they would do trips every day. They would do different like boating and like hiking, Masada, all of these trips. And then, but in the mornings, they had yeshiva Jewish learning in classes. And I remember, like, I would constantly ask questions. I'd constantly stay after, talk to the rabbis, like, question them and love it. And I remember when I left that trip after 2 weeks, I think it's 2.5 weeks, how long is it? And I left that trip, and I remember talking to my rabbi. I said, Rabbi, I've got to go back to yeshiva this summer. I'm sorry. I can't stay home.
And did you? What was the...
I went back that summer for 2 weeks. I walked in my tank top, shorts and flip-flops. I walked into this yeshiva with all these rabbis. I'm sitting there. And I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, I'm like, why did I do this? But I ended up loving it. And at first, I went really fast into it. I had that period. But I also understand that this is the Torah that I love, and this is what I love doing. It helps me connect with myself, and it gives me a sense of purpose. And I connect to the aspect. And also, it's interesting because my mum's family, I've actually reconnected to them as well.
Really.
My grandfather met me for the first time 3 years ago. He's a rabbi in New York, and he gave me a hug and said, and I just feel very lucky. I love Shabbat, like I love all these Jewish experiences. I'm very involved in the Golden Green community, and I feel like I'm in a good place in my Judaism. I feel balanced. I feel like I'm doing what makes me happy. It gives me purpose. It's infinite, and it gives me so much happiness.
Wow.
That's what I'm doing right now.
Gosh, Josie, this is just unbelievable. I mean, thank you. I can't thank you enough for your time. But I want to get to those last couple of points as well, because I feel like we could just spend all night reminiscing, and also like you know, just listening to you. But tell us, you know, we've mentioned, you know, you've overcome so many hurdles in your life, but one of the kind of most incredible things, I'm just watching you. I mean, the list is endless. I mean, I literally saw on your Facebook page the other day that you just qualified as a life coach as well. So muzzle tov on that. Like, I'm like, how? But you seem to just roll out. But one of your the perhaps biggest projects is I actually remember discussing it with you on National Weekend about 4 or 5 years ago, when you came up with this idea, like, I know we can start this organization, make videos. You had this idea of making videos to inspire young people and get them like to be positive about life. But you've started this incredible website and you know, called Motivate, a program called Motivate, where you kind of share your inspiration with youngsters. Tell us a bit about that and how that's been, and kind of how it got going and how it's gone so far.
So it's actually very interesting. If anyone knows a bit about bipolar, is that you have depressive episodes, you have a period where you're very depressed, and then you have periods of mania, where you're very, very excitable and you have great, you know, very grandiose ideas and things like that. And when I was in A levels, when I had this mania period where I was excitable and thinking of ideas all day, I came up with Motivate in that moment. And I went to my school and I started putting posts of Motivate all around the school. And because I was unwell shortly after, I had to stop it. But I remember walking into university, I saw this banner. If you are at university, because I know this is aimed at AISH On Campus, just a quick thing, get involved in what you can in campus. Trust me, it's the best thing I've ever done. For my getting a job and things that I've got after uni, it's been amazing to know that I've done other stuff on campus. So just a bit of advice. Try and get involved in a society that helps people. Anything you can do to really broaden yourself and widen your perspective, do it. And just be a yes man. To watch that movie, it's a great movie. Just be a yes man. And basically I saw this banner and it said Enactus, which is a social enterprise society, and it said start your own social project today. So I thought, I've got an idea. I had that idea, even though it was while I was ill. I had that idea, and I want to help young people. I want to help people. I don't want anyone to go through what I went through and feel alone. I don't want anyone to feel that they can't talk to someone. I don't want anyone to feel not confident, because every person is unbelievably special. All of you are unbelievable special. Every person here is unbelievable special. And I want to help people realize that themselves. Not me tell it to them, but I want them to realize how great they actually are themselves. So I got a team together. It was 8 people at the time. That's what it's called, Motivate. But even it was quite interesting.
I was going to ask what's the 8, but that's the answer. There we go.
Infinity sign, so it represents, like, if you turn it on its side.
And it was just happened to be there were 8 people as well.
8 people at the time, you know, nothing coincidence, you know. And we said, let's start this project. Just get people together. We created a logo.
Wow.
We had to contact schools, and you know, within over the 3 years that I ran it, we had 40 to 60 volunteers. Like at one point, you know, working to Motivate, and we were sending all these people into local schools. I had a vice chair. It was an unbelievable experience, building programs, and we worked with over 200 students in 3 years in the local bar, helping them build self-esteem and motivation. I was so grateful to take something that was a negative experience and turn it into tangible content that could help other people. And again, it just shows that, guys, if you have an idea, if you want to help people, if you want to make a difference, don't hold back. There's nothing holding you back except from your mind and your heart. Belief, the law of attraction, all of these self-help books, all they're saying to you, all of these, the common denominator between all of these books, and I've read loads of them, is about believing in yourself and having the imagination to believe that you guys can do whatever you want in life. And I know I'm being like super optimistic. Yeah, the world's hard. Yes, things are challenging, 100%. But you have the resilience and the desire to do something, the world will bring it to you.
Wow. Jodeci, this is great. Now I want to, this is every part of this journey is its own kind of 3-hour conversation and story and inspiration. But I want to kind of, we are limited in time, but I do want to kind of come on to something that I really want to hear your perspective on, because I think a lot of people watching as well are also interested in this. You know, we at the moment we're all watching the news. Everyone's be glued to the news. We become like news addicts at the moment. And you know, the world is going through some kind of existential crisis. And in the midst of it, suddenly a couple of weeks ago, this massive kind of upheaval started in America and has now come to UK, the rest of Europe as well, about, you know, the equality, equal rights, and in terms of the Black Lives Matter movement, and it forced us to reflect a little bit, specifically about the Jewish community, and to think about, whether there is kind of privileges to some and discrimination against others within our Jewish community, and if there is, to ask ourselves what we can do about it. So I'm interested to hear from your perspective. Obviously, as you mentioned earlier on, you grew up and you faced challenges being the only Black Jew in the school, and I'm sure throughout life as well. Share with us a little bit your perspective, but perhaps focus on what it is that you think needs to change, who needs to do that change, and maybe you've got all the answers, maybe you don't, but maybe just share a little bit of your perspective on what's going on at the moment.
Just to start, I want to say I love everyone. I love you all. I love the Jewish community. The Jewish community has been unbelievable to me over the many years. I've been embedded in many different communities, and I've been very happy about the support that I've got and the welcomeness that I've got from many communities. However, there is no denying that there is places within the community, or there are general themes within the community that can make, I'll just say can, because you probably don't realize you're doing it, or communities don't realize they're doing it. I'm not putting the blame on anyone. Can make people of color, Jews of color. Obviously, this whole George Floyd thing that's happening has been a trampoline, a kind of catalyst for change, meaning that why was there the League of Nations? Because of World War I and II. If it wasn't for World War I and II, there wouldn't be a communal organizations for all the different countries, meaning that this event has caused the community to look at themselves, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And these things that I'm saying, which can make people feel out of it, and on the peripheries of the community, is things like security and the questions we get being turned away from schools because we don't look Jewish. And this isn't just me talking on behalf of myself. I've been in contact with many Black Jews in the UK and Jews of color in the UK over the last few days, and we all have come to a common consensus on many of the issues we face, being Jews of colors, including questioning, intense questioning once we get into synagogues, not being represented in Jewish books, especially books for younger children, because that's where the education lies. Assuming our stories, as if everyone has a story, I know, but assuming we have some sort of unique story. And I think these things can be avoided, and by every person in the community have I just want to say that the community is so diverse. Our Jewish community is, I know in Anglo Jewry there is a predominantly white Jewish population. But if we look at the Jewish population across the world, it's very, very, very diverse. Ethiopian, Yemenite, Arabian Jews, Indian, every type of Jew there is, right? And I just want to put into people's minds that although we are in a community that is predominantly white Jewish, I just want you to know that isn't the fundamental basis of Judaism. Judaism isn't made up of a race. It's based on inheritance in history, in culture, and that there's so many different types of Jews. And just to start off, I think that the awareness that I can give to you over is that there are many more like me and the different types of Jews. And I think if you can do anything on an individual basis, is to help them feel accepted. If they walk into a synagogue, say hello, welcome. Bring them into a synagogue. Try not to stare too much. If they're in synagogue, I know you're curious, but staring can make people feel uncomfortable. Invite them over for Shabbos. I know a lot of people in the community, for example, who can't get Shabbos meals because of the color of their skin. They feel like people aren't inviting them. Invite them over for a meal. Ask to hang out with them and introduce them into your circles. Make them feel part of the community. And lastly, I think the rabbis and religious leaders of the communities, it would be great if they could do speeches and really introduce these ideas into the community, and the leaders and the educational authorities from a top-down perspective, if they could do something about it, would be great as well.
Wow. Listen, I really appreciate that, because also that was really practical. That was really helpful for those listening, those watching, whether you're live now. Big shout out to those watching live, but also if you're watching after the post live viewers. That's really practical advice that we can all kind of take on one at a time. And if you want to make a big change, you've got to start with yourself. Jodeci, we could go on all night, but we have other things to do as well. Jodeci, I just want to say, first of all, we all love you. Second of all, a massive, huge thank you so much for your time, for sharing your thoughts. and for inspiring us all continually. Thank you so much, Jodeci. It's been a pleasure having you on tonight's show.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
The pleasure is ours. Thank you so much, Jodeci. Before we conclude this evening's show, I want to remind anyone watching out there about the very exciting news that we have now reopened our venture program for applications. After having to close, we had an influx of applications and we had to be able to expand our internship options. If you are wondering how to make the most out of the month of July, making sure that you are doing the best with your summer after being stuck at home or having your plans cancelled, having your holidays cancelled, make the most out of the summer. Make sure that at the end of July, you have something great to put on your CV. You've picked up some incredible skills and you've learned something incredible about your heritage. Venture is the one for you. If you haven't seen the video before, check it out right now, our Venture program. And before we say goodnight for the final time this evening, to share with you a thought for the day, and really after hearing from Jodeci, there's very little that needs to be added. There's very little that can be said. And I just want to, listening to Jodeci brings one Jewish idea to the forefront of my mind that I want to share with you. And that's as follows. The Mishnah in Avot, the Mishnah in Ethics of the Fathers tells us very clearly, it says, who is someone who considers wise? The person who learns from everyone around them. And it's funny because you expect it to say who's wise, the person who knows loads of things. And the answer is it's not the person who knows loads of things, because wisdom is the ability to interact with the world around us and absorb wisdom from everything that we see in life. And Jodeci is a human being, one of the most incredible human beings I have the privilege of knowing, who literally every step in the way is a lesson to us. And it's been a real honor. I know Jodeci is back screen behind stage watching, and it's a good opportunity to say a massive thank you to him for sharing his thoughts and perspectives. That's it for tonight's show. It's been a pleasure welcoming you to another AISH On Campus Wednesday Night Live. Now, I've got a very last final announcement that next week we have a fantastic, very exciting guest joining us for our live show Wednesday night at the same time, the same place, Wednesday evening on our Facebook page. If you're not following us already, click follow now. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, click subscribe now. aish.org.uk is our website. If you're interested to find out more about what's going on at AISH, there's incredible opportunities, loads of new initiatives, and fantastic summer program called Venture. So check it out. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Jodeci. Thank you guys for watching. And we look forward to seeing you again next week at the same time. Have a good night.